I just went live. Oh, you're good. I forgot to like do the intro. There should have been like 3 minutes, but I didn't do an intro. What is it? Oh, how old is that?
We made it just yesterday. Me and Kylie were doing, me and her were, picking random characters, and, we just off the head pick random characters, and then, draw
Draw together?
names.
That's cool. I love you. Yeah, show me more when I get done, I'm sorry. Okay. Hi guys, welcome in. I'm gonna be working on my book today. My kiddo was showing me something. I usually like have a startup screen, but I forgot to turn it on, so just went straight into streaming. Usually like I have like a whole thing. My artwork and a countdown, so I didn't give them any warning. That was my bad. But oh, that's horrible. Why do I keep drinking that? Oh, it is the hardest cranberry juice I have ever had. It's awful, but I can tell you it's probably going to be very good for my body. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, let's jump into it. And let's see my levels here. Oh, is my mic on? Yes. Audio is coming through? Okay. Okay, so I decided that I was gonna work on this. I might jump around a little bit in my book series, but I'm gonna work on this. It says in 2025 there was a lot of talk of Mall World. As a dreamer began to try to map out this dreamscape. It caused many people to realize they were within a shared dream space, yet key factors and concerns were the map was not correct, as dreamers came to the conclusion that perspective, thoughts, and emotional states played large parts in filling this dreamscape. I think dreamscape is one word. Meaning dreamers were having a collective dream experience, yet those dreamers were having individual experiences as well. Some saw, I'm gonna do quote, I don't know that, I don't think anyone's copyrighted the word Mall World. If they have, they're an asshole, by the way. Some saw Mall World as a nightmare. Well, very contrastly. Is contrastly not a word? Contrastly. Apparently, it doesn't like the word contrastly. What? There's a bug in your pocket. Go outside. What? I want to see. Go outside. Put it outside.
I don't want to go out with her.
Take a picture of it. What is it? A beetle?
In her pocket.
That's gross.
It was like a Cheeto. It colored like the inside of a Cheeto. So we thought it was a Cheeto. But then it crawled out of her pocket. And then when she went back in.
Okay. So I guess like we're currently working on Mall World, guys, if you're coming in, just talking about collective shared dreams. I don't know if Mall World has been copyrighted, but I've heard it before somewhere else. Yeah, it was on TikTok. Somebody had made a TikTok and they were asking if anyone else was dreaming a Mall World because they were starting to map out the entire thing. and somebody had asked them, I guess, like, this is me trying to remember their content, had asked them to map it out or something like that, like they were asked to. And so they had seen parts of it and had been taken around. I've been dreaming of, that, what is that? That's a, oh, it's a cricket. You gotta,
There's a cricket in my pocket.
go put it outside. Open, there, it's not mean. It's not mean, just open your pocket and scoop it out.
That's a cricket?
Yeah, I don't know, actually. I mean, it kind of looks like a cricket.
Yeah, it was very tiny. I thought it was...
Okay, go, do me this favor. Go change your pants. Leave it closed, leave your pocket zipped. Go change your pants, then take your pants outside and then release it outside. Don't release it on your body, because you don't want to make sure that thing doesn't get, like, I don't know what that is. I think it's a cricket. But it doesn't, its legs don't look right.
She said it was a Cheeto, so I kind of believed it. But then it kind of crawled out, and then she actually seen
Yeah,
it was a
go.
bug.
My daughter has a bug in her pocket. Do you have, like, what are you storing in your pocket that there's a bug living in there?
I don't know. It just crawled in there when we were sitting down together.
I'll look it up. It's a fashion dress up game on Facebook. Okay, well then I'm not worried about that. Mall World. I'm talking about the copyright attached to the Dreamscape. And if it's already copyrighted, that means that they couldn't copyright it for that purpose. So since I'm not talking about the game, I think I'm good. So that probably saved me in a way. Make sure that I didn't have to. Let me turn down my volume on my thing so I can concentrate. I love music, but like sometimes it gets a little loud for me. Okay, but yeah, so this person got on and they were asked to map it out, in their perspective. But a lot of the part of these small worlds or whatever, in my experience, I was always trying to escape. The moment that I realized that I was in this type of thing, I would go lucid and I would try to escape. Sometimes I was able to, sometimes I'd get caught. But it was a constant for me growing up. I would be in the mall sometimes, I'd be in the classrooms most of the time. And as I got older, I was, yeah, go help her.
I don't...
But like later on when I was having the dreams, they were moving me from a student to an instructor. And this wasn't a role that I wanted. Like, I didn't want to be an instructor in this classroom setting, trying to teach intuitive magic, if you will, to these younger people coming in. But I did walk the hall a lot. They were taking me around, like, trying to train me up for that position. I didn't want that position. They ended up offering me a different position, and I didn't take that one either. I don't want anything to do with this place. It's a prison. Like, I don't want this dreamscape prison. But, so, I don't know how much to write down about that, but, I did eventually get out of that dreamscape, and there are people that claim that they work there, and then there's people that claim that they're stuck in it. So some people were inmates, and some people were the staff. So I was an inmate, then they tried to move me to a staff member because I kept escaping and I refused to take that job. But anyway, it sounds insane, and I know how it sounds, but I wasn't able to dream about any other place but that place. And it felt very imprisoning, you know? So you want to be able to have dreams that are about healing, that are about travel, astral travel, things like that. And at one point, I want to say it was like near my early to mid 20s is when I got stuck in that place and I couldn't get out. I used to lucid dream.
It's that type of bug called a silverfish.
It's a silverfish?
Wait, I think it's called that. I don't know.
Well, let's look it up. Would you say it looks like this?
Hold on. I can't see from here.
Well, come here. It's okay. Is this thing?
Yes.
So you had a silverfish in your pocket.
Yeah, I did.
In my pocket.
No, it was on the couch, and I sat down, and it crawled in because it got scared.
They like to damage books.
Oh.
And there's a bookcase right behind the couch.
Oh. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to see if I can't treat my books. I get a lot of books from Goodwill. I'm worried that I might have infested my books with some used ones. We'll look around and see if there's any infected books.
It was on the couch, and I sat down next to my sister, and she had Cheetos, and as I sat down, the Cheetos almost spilled, and
because
she saw something go into my pocket, and me and her thought I was a Cheeto at first.
No,
and,
I said it was a bug.
And I thought it was a Cheeto, and so me and her were trying to find.
At least
what
you didn't
bug
freak
it
out.
is. Yeah, and then I stood up, and I'm like, you know what, never mind. And then I sit back.
You
down.
didn't like
It crawls-
scream or anything.
I was like, it crawled out my pocket, looked at me, and went back in. And I screamed, or I did that weird noise, and I jumped up, and started screaming. It's in my pocket.
Yeah, so you had a silverfish in your pocket. Well, just know this is gonna be like on YouTube now.
Yikes.
Well, that's
You're talking about your
That's very
some
specific.
silverfish in your pocket.
Sigma.
Oh well then. But yeah, okay, sorry guys, I'm back. But yeah, trying to figure out like exactly what I want to go into. I'm also writing a fiction novel. I don't know how much I'm gonna go into it in the fiction novel either. I might make mention of it, but not to the degree in which it was. But no one actually knew about this like place, which is really interesting. Until 2025 when this person was talking about Mall World and like drawing maps, and I was like, well, that's not how I remember it. Like, cause I've driven through it, and where she had things like the theater and stuff like that wasn't connected. But I've been in the theater, I've been in the gymnasium, the school. I've never been in the park. I did try to, one time while I was escaping, try to go to the lake, and I was on the road, heading towards the grocery store, which, like, I have a very different map than what she had, but I was going on this road, and I was trying to, kind of, like, hide, because I was being followed, and I pulled into where the lake was, and hid behind a car. And I could hear my guide say, like, that place is not for you. Like, do not go to the lake. And then I woke up. So I've seen the lake, but I've never gone into the lake. But that was the first time I had seen the lake, and a major part of the layout of that particular, matrix, if you will. My guides have called it the Matrix, so I call it the Matrix. That lady called it Mall World. So people are gonna know it more as Mall World, but I've always called it the Matrix. It's a place and time where it's definitely the 90s. Like, it's fucking weird. The malls are still very active. There's people walking around the shopping malls. And I swear that the Matrix is about the Matrix, and I think that's why my guides have gone to call it the Matrix. Lucid dreams can certainly be interesting. I had them for years, though not anymore. Yeah, I had lucid dreams, and realm travel, if you will. Traveling to different realms. But at the end of my lucid dreaming is when I got stuck in the Matrix. And it's funny because, what was happening in the Matrix, it's very similar because it's like, anyway, and that's why I'm like, I don't know how much I want to go into it, because like I don't think people would quite understand it. And it's not supposed to be a scary place, it's just a place in which it's a shared experience that we have created with the collective consciousness. So like it's a space in which you're supposed to be exploring, to ask ourselves the question, why do we exist? And to share that in a collective energetic space. So I think that there's some people that feared it, and then there were other people, like especially the workers, the people that claimed that they were working in this world. They enjoyed their dreams. They would go to work. They would spy on people. Like I've seen the other side of some of these stories that are people were talking about, like being in dreams and listening to conversations and pairing people together, and then watching and witnessing dramas play out, and being the directors of theater, putting people on stages with scenarios. And it's very much like Inside Out. Have you ever watched Inside Out? Where they have like the theater where they're like putting dreams together and they're constructing it. Very much like that, but the scenarios are built within the theater. And I've actually been a person in the crowd in the theater, and everyone's looking at the screen. And this is dreams. These are all dreams that I've had. Well, this particular dream that I'm getting ready to tell you, where I'm like sitting in the theater, and I'm like everyone's looking at the screen. And I start fidgeting around in my seat, and I'm like, what is everybody looking at? Because to me, the screen's blank. Like, I don't see anything on the screen, and everyone else is just watching it. And I start shuffling around, and people are like, can you sit down? Like, you're being too loud, and they're telling me to be quiet. They're like, be quiet. Like, we're trying to watch this. And I'm like, watch what? Like, what are you guys watching? And they're like, quit being disruptive. And, like, everyone's just staring at a blank screen. And I'm, like, trying to get out of the theater. And I've had several of those theater dreams where I'm walking through the crowd, and people are just staring at whatever's on stage, and there's nothing there. Like, everyone's just watching this stage, and I'm just, like, kind of, like... And I've had so many of those dreams. Like, why? And sometimes I would be on the stage, but, like, most of the time I was in the crowd trying to get through the audience, and I don't know where I was headed. But dreams are bizarre. But a lot of people have talked about being in the theater. The mall... The mall was interesting because it had escalators that went up, and then like immediately after, the escalators went down, and it's like, so it was just like up and down and then up and then down, and there wasn't like a real like use for them to be doing that, like other than it was just like a wee, you know, with the escalators, so you could just get stuck on the escalators infinitely. But yeah. And other people have talked about the escalators being like that too. Some people talk about the roads. I have never seen this, but like the roads that are infinitely looping. I don't know what they're talking about. I was on the road that one time that I was, evading and ended up at the lake. But other than that, there was, like I said, it went as somebody that was, not a worker within that constructive space. I was only allowed to certain areas within it, if that makes sense. This is gross. I hate this thing that I'm drinking, but I keep drinking it. Okay. In my own experience, this dreamscape was problematic and felt I was captive. How's it going, Ninja? And it's interesting because they've called them the Dream Police, right? And these terms, like, they make sense. They do make sense. I wouldn't necessarily call them the Dream Police, but that's a term that people have used as well. So Mall World and Dream Police are terms that have come from, like, people talking about this and starting the conversation. I don't know that Dream Police is correct. I don't know if you guys have heard the term Dream Police. What, the Howdy Stranger? I don't see you on stream often, or you're live when I'm asleep. Yeah, I kind of just jumped on today because, like, I've been feeling like I wanted to stream. I jumped on TikTok earlier and did readings, and then at the end I did a little bit of reading about the importance of dreams. And we were talking about the spiritual ecosystem, and I meant to give them a little sneak peek of that book that I'm working on, which is book 2 of my Mediumship series. But I had a little bit of dream content at the end of that book, and I was so embarrassed because I read a portion of it that I thought that I had written differently. And what had happened was I had started the dream stuff, and then decided it needed its entire own book. So, like, I pulled it and I threw it into another book. So this is book 3. And I forgot that I did that. So I read some incomplete stuff, and I was like, I can't leave it there. Like, I'm just gonna jump on and work on it. And this is not what I need to be doing. This is book 3. Like, I need to be working, my fiction's due December of this year. And my book 2, Mediumship one, I want it to be released by next year, 2027. And that's the spiritual ecosystem one. And the spiritual ecosystem one, let me see how many pages it is right now. Hold on. It's just funny because, like, this is what I do, right? This is the projects I should be working on versus the ones that I am. And I think that people get that. They get it, right? They get it. What is damn? Damn! I gotcha. Damn. Going from art to writing books. Dude, I was always a writer. I started writing when I was 16. I wrote my first novel. I got to 130 pages. It was about dragons. And I loved writing. And then I thought about wanting to hire an animator or an artist to create my work. And I wasn't a very good artist. Like, I liked drawing, but I wasn't very good at it. And that's about the time that I was like, well, I want to make my own animation of my story. So I taught myself how to draw and make comics, and the rest is history. I went to school for art, and I started working at studios. I'm finally at the skill set that I wanted to be able to animate and make my stories come to life. And I hadn't written in such a long time. And that's so crappy, but, like, when people are like, oh, I don't have a bone in my body that has any art talent, I'm like, oh, shush. Oh, shush. Them fighting words. You make it happen. It's a skill. And I am proof of that, because I was so much better of a writer. Like, I would say that, looking back at my old writing, that's a skill too, because my old writing's pretty bad. But with life experience comes better writing. So the way I'm writing now is so much better than the stuff I was writing at 16. I mean, I would hope so, but I actually didn't know that about you. Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, I had right before I came on to Twitch, it was like 2017, I had an interview with a guy, and he's like, oh, you're an artist? And he said it with such veracity and like, ugh, like, ugh. And I was like, yeah, I'm an artist. And he goes, oh, well, I have a podcast. And I was like, oh, congrats. And he's like, yeah, I'm on YouTube. And I was like, okay, cool. And he's like, you want to do a interview with me since you're an artist? And I'm like, sure, I'll do a podcast with you. He doesn't tell me what it's about. And we jump onto this podcast, and he starts talking about how writers deserve to be paid more than artists, because without writers' work, artists' work wouldn't exist. And I think he was debating with the wrong person. Because I basically destroyed his debate. Like, completely destroyed his debate. He put it up for about a month, and then he ripped it down. Because it didn't prove the point that he wanted. Because he was like, writing is so much more difficult, and it takes a lifetime, and I was like, and so does art. Like, you are constantly looking at the world with shifting eyes, and like, seeing the beauty, the color, the volume, the tones, the shape, like, it changes the way that you view the world. Just like a writer, like, you're constantly thinking, like, oh, I should do this with my story, or I should do this, and they're like, because it's not when I'm sitting in front of the computer and typing that I'm writing, like, I'm writing all the time, and I said, same with artists. They're doing the same thing. And he's like, you can't do both well, and I'm like, see me try? See me try. I will accomplish that, because I am a strong-willed person. I was gonna call myself a motherfucker, and I don't know why I was gonna do that, but anyway. I'm a strong-willed person, and I will get to the level of skill level that I want. And yes, it took me 40 years. I'm 40-some years old. It took me 40 years to get to the point where I like my writing and my art just as much. If you have the dedication, you can do it. I know nothing about that stuff, to be fair. Oh, thanks for listening to me rant about it, then. I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry about that, then. Okay, let me move this link. Well, and it sucks because right now I feel like I'm in the in-between fighting between artists and writers, because writers are doing some really shitty stuff, some really shady fucking stuff with AI, and saying like, well, I wasn't born with talent, so it should be fine that I use AI for my covers. And I was like, no, it's not okay. Like, what you don't seem to understand is AI is also replacing writers. Like, equally. Yeah, it sucks at writing. People are getting caught all the time for AI work, but like it's not coming out right away, but people are figuring it out. The thing is, AI is going to get better at writing because it's mimicry. It's mimicking our experiences, our writing, and it's pulling from too many damn sources. It's pulling from old content of writing, old structures of writing, as well as Reddit. And then it's also pulling from just writing in general, but like right now they're training. I just saw Ingram Sparks, the self-publishing book company, is taking all of their indie work and gonna be feeding it to train a new AI. I was this close from publishing my book through Ingram Sparks, and I didn't know why I was holding back on that, but I can tell you, I'm really glad I didn't, but that doesn't mean that the company that I self-published through my first book isn't gonna do the same thing. And then there goes my book. But what are you doing? Yeah, inspiration is everywhere for sure. But I kind of find myself fighting with the writers that are like, well, I wasn't born with talent, so you're an ableist if you keep me from being able to make a cover. from my book, or draw out my characters and scenes from my book. Like, you're an ableist. And I'm like, we're not ableists. Like, a lot of us have chose to develop those skills because we lacked them. And I would say I was not born a writer. I was not born an artist. Like, I wanted to be these things. So I put in effort to become those things. And it's a lifetime of effort. 40 years of it. I also am equally, like, obsessed with the way the brain functions, how viruses work, how the human body functions, herbology, ecosystem, just how things work. And so, like, I have a lot of weird cattail, a lot of weird knowledge and things to splice together, and that's why I want to, I don't know, my content, like, I don't know what to do with it. Like, I don't know what to do with it to warn people what I do. I've just been telling people I'm a spiritual philosopher. And whatever that is. It's creating reality. It's helping people understand a reality. And creativity is a doorway into the deeper confines of the mind. So, the inner depth of self, if you will. So. I wish I would stop drinking that. Oh. It's cranberry juice, and it is the most bitter and disgusting cranberry juice I have ever had. You think it's delicious? What is wrong with you, child? My 13-year-old's like, I think it's good. Well, you can have it. I don't want any more. I gotta finish the glass I poured for myself, at least. But yeah. So this right here that I just opened up is the one that I'm currently working on. This is book 2 of my Mediumship series. And this one is the spiritual ecosystems. So this is the material spiritual ecosystem that's around us at all times. We live on the material spiritual. Our bodies are a protectant layer from that spiritual ecosystem in the material spiritual. And then when they talk about the in-between, that is going through the veil to other dimensional planes. So the material spiritual is not, I guess it would be considered 4D. I really don't follow the 4D, 5Ds. I really don't. Because they're getting it so incorrectly. Because we become a timeless version, but we're not fully timeless until we become, until we go across the veil into the other dimensional planes. And that's when we hit true timelessness, because that's when all of our selves collect at one point, and then we become one being through all of our lives. So, I might have lost you guys, on some of this. Please, like, feel free to ask me questions, or be like, what the hell are you talking about? And I like talking about this stuff. I'm obviously writing books about it. So, yeah, I obviously like talking about it, so if you're, like, ever, like, what the hell? But let me see. Oh, and I have this right here. It says, the material worlds, I'm gonna read a paragraph, because I was just talking about the collective self, and it's, like, right there. I'm gonna read the first 2 paragraphs. How about that? If I told you that once a being finds themselves on the other side of the veil, that they may equally may equally dispute the existence of the material world. So being like when you are on the other side of like the transition. So when you become, because right now we're the material self, right? When we make that transition out of body, then we might dispute the existence of the material world, because that's how disconnected we become from the material world. Once we're on the other side of the veil. So that is like going through the in-between and arriving at the collective self. So the collective self could dispute and say that the lives that they had didn't exist. So it's a lot. Anyway, like 2 contrasting mirrors, the belief and lenses cause us to interpret and understand of that reflection differently when we are on one side of the reflection or the other. So to say that we don't understand one side of the reflection, and if we're on the other side of it. So we might think that we can, this is me, this is also me, but I only understand the me that I am on this side of that mirror. Like, I don't understand the me that's on this side of the mirror. Not fully. Because once I go through that transition and I've come into that collective view of self, then I can't see the smaller parts of what made me be this person either. It's kind of like when we go through a lot of ego deaths or a lot of changes in our lives, and we reflect back on the past versions of self. We can reflect back at that version of self, but we don't fully remember that exact feeling to be that self. It's very much like that. But anyway, if the veil was the distance between these reflections, then traveling through the veil would be to return to the other side of the reflected self. In the material world, we are fragments of a larger whole, our collective self. And through these fragments, we are able to learn and grow. So, a good way to explain this is, let me draw something. Can I open Clip Studio? I prefer Clip Studio. Let's see if I crash my computer. But I prefer Clip Studio. Let's just open a square. Oh, that's fine. Okay, push this over so I can see chat again, so I can see you guys. Okay, so the best way to explain this is to show you a circle. And this is a 3-dimensional, so this is a 3-dimensional, so that I tried to show you some light here, so the light's coming this way. This would be in shadow. But this is a 3D object. This is a 2D object. And the only way that you would be able to understand the self is to take the 3D object and to push it through this 2D plane. Because I understand the 2D plane, because I can see it. And as I push through the 2D plane, I'm understanding myself in sections. But those are those sections. So, in order to understand the self, I have to put myself into a lower visual plane in which I can see myself. So, for a 4D being, in order to see itself, which it's timeless, right? So it's an object of timelessness. In order to understand itself, it has to fragment itself into a 3D dimensional being, whatever. So then that way it can see itself through a concept of time. So it is to fragment itself in a way. There is no existence of time, but having the concept can help us understand the self by, like, again, dragging through that area. Anyway, that was the best way that I had ever seen it explained. And let me see. Oh, where are we going here? Right there. But those metaphorical fragments are like stars in the sky, painting a beautiful image of the self, each star being an incarnation and a lesson that can help shape the reflective self and the other side of that veil. Our collective selves' desire, hopes, and dreams become the containing the sky for those stars, as those wants ripple through each incarnation, affecting the star's motivation and drive. So that is to say, like, another name for the collective self would be the higher self. It's just a version of you that remembers all your incarnations. But yeah, so that's the beginning of this book, and then it goes into, like, talking about basically what it is to be on this side of the veil, as far as the things that we're missing, like the things that we are not aware of. And at one time this book was called Beyond the Veil, so I might take some of this collective stuff, the way that I'm talking about the reflective mirror, and move it to another book. And I find that I do that, like I'm writing other books, like while I'm writing this particular book, and it keeps growing, the series keeps growing that way. And then I kind of like, no, this one can stay, this one has to go, and I feel like this part's probably going to go into the Beyond the Veil part of the book that used to be part of this. but it's not anymore. Because this isn't going to be about Beyond the Veil anymore. It's spiritual, ecosystem, and the journey. So the journey is to go through the in-between and the being in the veil, which is different. And honestly, the in-between should be its entire own book. And the journey should be its own book. But that's why these books end up, like, being so freaking huge by the end of it. Like, my book, here, let me show you. This is the first book. It's 650 pages. It's a big book. And it's got understanding the self, trying to understand your own abilities, placing yourself within those abilities, understanding the self. This is all about the self. 100% the self. So that's why it's called self-love and healing, because it's about trying to understand the self on a deeper level. Like, talk about the different abilities so people can understand what their abilities are and their limitations. So I have, like, a lot of charts and stuff in here that I've drawn. And that's partly why I'm super glad that I learned all the graphics and stuff that I did. I worked for a I worked for a catalog company. Like, they sold to, like, sports authorities and Walmarts and Targets, and they were called Safety Guard. I don't know if anyone has even heard of it. They make mouth guards and, like shin guards and underwear and things like that. But I worked at this company working and doing their catalog. And a lot of that, like, having to create material and then putting it into InDesign, like, it paid off a lot when I went to actually make my book in InDesign. I completely did all my images. I wrote it all in Google Docs, and then I moved it all to InDesign, formatted it, and then put in, like, all my images and stuff. And I think I did a pretty good job. I think it's pretty. I think it's a pretty book. But again, I'm a perfectionist, so I'm a big perfectionist, and I love drawing things to explain using images. Anyway, I'm gonna put that back behind me. Ugh. Okay, so I guess I could talk a little bit about what I'm writing before I jump in. So there's the micro ecosystem, the meso, and then the macro. So there are 3 different layers to the material ecosystem. The micro ecosystem is what we're on. We're on the micro. There is one that's smaller than the micro, but, like, I don't want to overcomplicate the book. It's kind of like if we were going into atoms and stuff like that. Like, when we're talking about, like, bears and antelope and stuff that are on the same ecosystem that we can see them. This is just, I don't want to overcomplicate it, and I'm already doing the micro, the meso, and then the macro, and I go back and forth between doing the I think, what is it called? I forgot. I think it's mini micro. I can't remember what name I give it, because these are concepts no one else is talking about, so I'm naming things as I go. Let's see. Okay, so the need of balance. This is super cool. Like, I can't wait to share this part, talking about, like, the different types of beings within our, like, normal material ecosystem. Trying to bring in something that we can tangibly see so we can understand something that we can't. And then categorizing these particular beings will help us understand in category, like, what those beings are doing on the spiritual level as well. So, like, putting, like, certain animals in the same category. So adaptive and survival species are very different than, say, your species that are the maintenance. and base species. So the ones that are made to maintain the ecosystem, or ones are made to be adaptive, because adaptive is about survival. Hi guys, welcome in. If you're just joining, you guys can ask any questions. I'm kind of just working on book 2 of my Mediumship series. I'm talking about the different type of species and what they do in their roles. So for instance, humans are an adaptive species. They are here for survival and to catalyst change, so to cause mass change. And when I say mass change, I'll just read the paragraph. Developmental influence or adaptiveness over an area or environment to bring the possibility of change through challenge. Not all adaptive beings assist in environmental change. Adaptive beings are geared towards survival and evolve quickly. In the material ecosystem, we often refer to these beings as evasive species, as they can change themselves to accommodate their surroundings if that assists in their survival. They also can adapt their environment, which I don't know if I put that. Okay, let me see. The material ecosystem, we can often refer to these beings as invasive species. They can change themselves or their environment. Okay, let me make sure. Okay, or their environment to accommodate their surroundings. Well, I mean their surroundings. I guess it was in there. Sorry, I just get a little nervous when I'm reading my stuff. Nobody's talking. But like it wouldn't be conducive for people to talk while I'm reading. So I don't know why I get like that. They can change themselves to accommodate their surroundings if that assists in their survival. These beings create forward movement of what otherwise might become a very stagnated and unmoving energy. They are the change makers, causing transformation, both internal and external. Their main goal is to continue life through environmental fluctuations. Adaptive beings, descendants may begin to evolve in any of the other types of beings, once a need is established by a new element within the environment. In other words, we all start as adaptive beings and then settle into the needed roles set by our environment through continual evolution. So again, guys, I'm a philosopher. Just think of it that way. I'm a philosopher. So I'm trying to help people understand the constructs of a reality. So let's see. Humans, shapers of the environment, adaptive towards many types of environments. Compatible with beings, creation of paths, creating imbalance or balance to environment, inhabited due to both survival, desire, and due to concepts of monetary goods. That's humans. I do talk about in the book like how we need to move from adaptive to a maintenance role, or we're going to go extinct because we're going to destroy the world. We're getting to the point where we're changing the world too aggressively that we're literally going to put ourselves into an issue. But that's here no say. But anyway. Wheat, for instance, is another one. So wheat is a shaper of the environment. It's wild grass foliage with a wide adaptability towards many types of environments. So wheat is one of those adaptive beings that can grow anywhere. Corn is another one. I don't know if I have corn on here. But corn can be very destructive. So let's put corn on here too. And I'll make sure I talk about corn since I've talked about it here. And this is just me thinking out loud. I'm trying to improve on myself and all that. I'm sorry that I missed that. Yeah, well, I'm glad that you are. Like, it's trial and end. Let me see. Let me tell people in the Discord that I'm live. I just realized that I didn't tell people. It's not helpful. on Twitch and YouTube with the ecosystem book. Okay, let them peoples know. But like the thing is about putting wheat and corn kind of does the same thing, where it just grows in many different types of environments, but it can completely destroy a soil. It says wheat providing food, shelter, and shade to small creatures and insects, wide adaptability for self-survival. You know, honestly though, corn wasn't necessarily in the beginning adaptive. We created it that way. Hi my love, I'm streaming. It's okay. You want to jump and swing? You can. Are you headed home? Oh, he's not talking to me anymore. He's like, I'm getting off the phone. But corn, I don't think that it was adaptive. I think that we forced it to be adaptive. It is a grass, but I think that we cultivated it. Human cultivation caused this. Should we call it a being? Being? Hi! I don't know if we should call it a being. Foliage? Human cultivation caused this foliage to become an adaptive. I don't know if it's calling it a species either. I'll have to think about that. And I'm thinking like being is probably a better term. Yeah, mini beings that serve out several different functions. I think that being is what I went with. Human cultivation caused this foliage to become an adaptive species as we changed the grain to be more suitable for consumption for ourselves. We also are coming into older okay, let me Bitonical.com. That's AI. Ugh, can we not? Can we not? Ugh, Wikipedia. Walking mountains. Trying to find a reliable source. Let's try this Wikipedia and see what they say. Yeah, it's a stout grass. It was a tall, stout grass that produced central grain. The leafy stalk in the plant gives rise to male inflorescence, or tassels, which produce pollen, and the female inflorescence called ears. The ears yield grain, known as kernels or seed. In modern commercial varieties, the ears are also yellow or white. About 9,000 years ago from wild... let's look up this then. So the original, it's not... It was domesticated by the indigenous people of Mexico. Okay, let's look up the history of... There we go. This is the babies. So this is the original... No, that's the... Oh my goodness, look how different corn has become. Yeah, we have definitely messed with it. I want to learn only about the species of the original corn. Yeah, look how different that is. But this is, I do a lot of research while I'm writing, as well, to make sure I'm not talking out of my ass. Proud of me for streaming, thank you. Variety of all populations are neither threatened or endangered, well of course, exist in areas of only a few square miles. Exist in an area only of a few square miles? So the original state of corn is only in a few square miles. They're trying to conserve it. And so it doesn't look like it has the ability to have the same tolerance as corn has now. Currently a large amount of scientific interest exists in conferring beneficial toxin traits, such as insect resistant, so it is naturally insect resistant. Flood tolerance, so it does really well in flood. The perennialism, beneficial traits, let's see. And to keep the corn lines alive is why they're keeping it. It says that it's challenging due to linking the traits. So it looks like they're still moving to try to make better corn coming from its original stock. Oh, it has an issue. There's a gene that provides resistance against the striga, which is a type of parasitic plant that can decrease yielding grain yield. So, like, it's interesting, it catches a virus that reduces its grain yield, and that's why they can't keep cultivating corn. Isn't that funny? That sounds like a spiritual defense, if I've heard any. Like a genetic defense against us continuing to manipulate it. Are you guys hearing that? Like, are you guys seeing that? Like, holy crap, man. Like, they're calling it a disease. They're calling it, a parasitic issue in some of the strains. That causes it to decrease its grain yield, and that's part of the reason why they're having a hard time continuing to make new lines of corn. It's like, stop fucking with me. Stop messing with me. I don't want to be messed with. That's really sad, actually. And we don't ask permission. Okay, human cultivation causes this foliage, which originally was a plant called teosinte. The virus and adaptation to counter hormonal increased corn. Yeah, exactly. And that's what the virus and adaptation to counter hormonally increased corn. Exactly. So they're not allowing us to splice it anymore. Like, they're trying to continue to make new lines of corn, but they've come up against some fucking parasitic issue within its genes that's not allowing it to do it anymore. Which that sounds to me that the plant's fighting back. It doesn't want to be continued to be manipulated. That's sad. And this is why we need to understand the ecosystem in which we mess with, because even when we do it with well intention, we didn't ask permission. We didn't ask the plant, would you like to have bigger grains? would you like to have more and larger grains? it doesn't benefit the plant in any way for its grains to be more edible by more animals, and for it to grow in that way. Like, so the scientific name is Z. Deferois? Z. Deferois. So let's do for scientifically called okay, human cultivation caused this foliage. Should we call it grass? It's fine. I think foliage is fine. Which originally was a plant called Teesonite, or scientifically Z. deferifrenus. I'm sorry, I cannot say these words. Our manipulation caused this being to become an adaptive species, as we change the grain to be more suitable for consumption and for ourselves. And it said that that it's looking for, its main contributing factors of why they wanted these traits is because it's insect resistant. It has the, I'm gonna look up what this is, the perennialism. I think that is, it comes back annually. Let me look up what the word perennialism is, because I'm not sure what that means. Rooted in idealism and realism, emphasizes the importance of an idea, is an educational philosophy based on idealism and realism, emphasizing timeless truth. What? What? They sang the corn knowledge are everlasting. So it's understanding, we're trying to understand ourselves by cultivating the corn. That is so interesting. Why do we exist? The universal truths behind why do we exist when we're genetically splicing and changing another species around us, we're gaining philosophy from it. Holy crap! Yeah, guys, we stop messing with corn. Quit messing with corn. But yeah, so if that's the reason why we're continuing to mess with it, other than its insect resistance and flood tolerance, is to understand ourselves, that's kind of fucked. But it's also to cultivate new lines of the maize variety, which the maize variety is the corn that we know today. So that's really interesting. So it's to maintain the maize line, as well as understand ourselves in greater study. Was it insecticide, or was it... I think I fucking closed that. Okay, hold on. Sorry, I didn't mean to cuss on that. Yeah. insect resilience. So it's resilient to insects. So it's not insecticide. It is that the grain cannot be consumed by insects. We could barely digest the freaking corn kernels, like the kernel around the corn. We have to be able to split it in order to digest the inside. So that makes sense to me that it's also insect resilient. Resistance, resistance to flooding, and natural insect resilience. I don't know, should I put in here? Like, I really do feel like this is a defense mechanism against our continual splicing of its genes. The Striga. And we see something similar with wheat trying to fight back from our constant manipulation of it as well. Wheat is becoming adaptive to making us sick. It's starting to make us sick, giving us celiac diseases, giving us gluten intolerances, and trying to fight back in that way. So it looks like corn is fighting back in the way that it is trying to decrease continuous genetic manipulation of it by creating these versions of self that it decreases the grain yield, where wheat has moved to give, like celiac disease and things like that cause spiritual issues as well. I won't go into that right now. That's really interesting. Hello, banana. Would you like your seeds to be small and useless? Yeah, but we didn't ask permission from the bananas either. And it's really interesting that I find that I have issues with all of the food that we have manipulated to the point where it has become something else. I have problem with corn, wheat, dairy, and I think the dairy is obvious. If the eggs of a chicken is well treated, I have no problem with it. But if the animal has been abused, I have problem with the eggs. I really do feel that that might seem a little bizarre to people. But I think that when an animal is well maintained, we see a difference in the production of meat as well. But anyway, I'm getting off subject because now I'm talking about foods and consumption, which is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the defenses that the adaptive beings have brought in to try to keep us from continuing to manipulate. So wheat is a shaper of environment, wild grass foliage with a wide adaptability towards many different types of environments, providing food, shelter, and shade to smaller creatures and insects, wildly adaptively for self-survival, and even evolving to spiritually protect itself from over-cultivation through spiritual attack if digested. So that's what I was talking about. So this is where we see celiac disease and gluten intolerances. Because we'll be talking about that in the book when it comes to, let me see, do we have a health section in here? Or do we actually go into it? Maybe we should go... Do you think we should go into it right here? I don't think that there would be a better place to put the celiac disease and gluten intolerance. I think that that's where I'm gonna have to put it. I'm gonna have to put it after wheat. And then on this one, I will put the Stratica? Stratica. And I'll look into this a little bit more when I go to actually type about it to make sure that I do enough research to make sure that, again, like I said, I'm not talking out my butt, because that's really important. Striga. Because I want to write a whole paragraph about both of these subject matters, but I want to make sure that I'm not. And that's kind of what I do. I kind of like leave a note and then I come back if I have to. Because I don't want to just use one page. So research study as its gene provide resistance. Okay, there it is. So I'm understanding this better. So the disease only affects the plants that have been genetically modified. So this particular disease, the Striga, the Striga disease only affects the maize lines. So that is the yellow corn, enlarged grain sizes. Stratica is a parasitic plant that can decrease the grain yield. So this is saying that, like, this one is immune to that virus. I can't figure out why the original one is immune, but not the manipulated types. That answers your question. It doesn't want to be manipulated. It has created this defense by creating a virus to keep its grain yields down. Yeah, it's right here. Researchers are studying the original plant as its genes provide resistance against this disease. It is a parasitic plant that decreases grain yield. There you go. And I'll just copy that right over. And like I said, I'll do more research. Oh, thank you. Did you just resub? Oh, Zell! Welcome in. Okay, so this is a parasitic plant. Doing good. How are you doing? I am writing about corn. And it being an adaptive species that we caused it to be adaptive. Okay, is... Okay, so... Stratica is a parasitic plant that can decrease grain yield. Terrasani's genes provide resistance to this plant. Almost like... So this particular plant, let me look up this Stratica. Because this seems like a symbiotic relationship. So symbiotic relationships are to balance the ecosystem. So this plant is a parasitic plant that causes the limitation of grain yield in corn crops. So this becomes a symbiotic relationship where the Stratica is doing something for the corn, where it's trying to balance the ecosystem. So it's trying to balance itself. So this is a This is a balancing, so let me see, Sortiga, I don't know how to say it, I'm sorry guys. So this right here, it's also, the generic name derives from Latin, which means witch. Oh! Witchweed. Witchweeds are characterized by bright green stems and leaves and small, brightly colored and attractive flowers. Yeah, so it looks like these ones are, they're balancing, it's a balancing the ecosystem. So let's put this Stratiga. Okay, so let's go, so we've got maintenance, resistors, so it's a resistor. It's resisting the change to the corn, so this is a resistor. Support, harmonize, it's not supportive, it's not cleansing, unblock, or flow. No, it is definitely a resistor being. So it is the resisting. So this Stratiga, and we'll put it here. So this is to say that this particular plant, its whole existence is based on trying to rebalance a wrong that we have created within the ecosystem. And this is how the universe works. When there's something that is broken, the universe does its best to try to set it right. This plant's existence is to try to help rebalance the end, to fix the harmony in which we have disrupted. It is, so it's not a parasitic plant. It's not parasitic. It is trying to maintain and resist the change that we made to corn. That's fucking awesome. Sorry. Oh my gosh. Oh, the background's gorgeous. You did that, sir. Well, I mean, we did it together. Is anyone else freaking out about this? Like, I'm so freaking out about this. This is so cool. So it's a resistor. I love finding the maintenance in resistors because they're everywhere. Like, horses are a resistor in maintenance. They target foliage that is growing in the wrong area. So if there is something that isn't meant in the area that they're in, they go after it first. And they say that it's craving because it's a particular weed or something like that that they don't normally get, so they eat it. But the thing is, what that's doing on an ecosystem level is it keeps out invading plants. So they are a resistor. So anything that's not supposed to be in that particular ecosystem is getting cut out. They're a maintenance. So horses are one of those ones that they are a resistor. They don't allow all, particular plants from coming in. Beavers are also a resistor, so they help flow, and then also hold back the flow of water, so things that can grow, so they resist the flow. And then so horses, foliage overgrowth, and local, I need to put local maintenance. I think hopefully I'll remember what I mean by that. I'm enjoying trying to learn to heavy metal. What do you mean? I make your brain wrinkly? Thank you. I try. Trying to make everybody's brain wrinkly in here. So it is not a parasitic plant. So we've just got this all fucking messed up. Excuse my language. So it is it is not a parasitic plant. It is a resistor plant. So let's move this supportive harmonizer, let's see, maintenance, resistor, and base. So I'm gonna copy this, and then we're gonna go up here, and we're gonna change the word parasitic. That just means we don't understand what the fuck the plant was trying to do. Not that we know what it is a maintenance / resistor base plant that can decrease grain yields. Genes provide resistance to this plant. And then we'll go down here, and then we'll say why it's doing it. decreases the grain yield of genetically modified versions of, and then let's pull the poll name here. Also known as corn, or the mesa corn. So the mesa, and it's also known as witchweed. I wonder why they call it witchweed. We'll have to go into more. Like I said, this is only the beginning of me researching some of these things, but I put placeholders, especially when I'm in a flow. Strategia, witchweed, decreases the grain yield of genetically modified versions. Don't know how to spell modified. Did I spell it right? It's not doing it again. Decreases grain yield of genetically modified versions of tisonite, also known as corn. Or, let's see, go back here. I'm trying to find the name of the corn that it affects, like because it only affects the mesa's corn. Okay, let's read about it. Commonly known as the witchweed, is a genus of parasitic plants that occur naturally in parts of Africa, Asia, and Australia. It is currently classified in the family of Orabanaceae. Not gonna touch that word. Although older classifications place it into Scaproficero, whatever, which is probably a type of flower. Some species are serious pathogens of central crops. Yeah, so they're calling it a pathogen, which is really effed up because they just don't understand. And this is a lot of like what I'm trying to help people understand, that everything's connected. So when we see something failing within the ecosystem, it's because there's something that's not balanced and the world is trying to balance itself out. The greatest effect being in savanna agriculture in Africa. So it seems like there's more of this witchweed in Africa. It also causes considerable crop loss in other regions, including other tropical and subtropical crops in the native range and in the Americas. So the genetic name derives from Latin striga, which was witch. So they hate it because it destroys their crops, so they named it after a witch. That's really messed up, by the way. Witchweeds are characterized by bright green stems and leaves, and small. And the interesting thing, we talk about like corn and how resistant it is, and they can grow in any environment. And this is probably why they've named it the witchweed, because as soon as you see that, you've lost your entire crop. Bright colors and attractive flowers. They are obligate hermaphoparasites of roots and require a living host for germination and development. They can only survive, they can then survive on their own. So they grow within the roots of their host, it looks like. Hold on. Yeah, so they grow in the roots of the corn. That makes sense, because if they're affecting the corn directly, then they would grow within the roots of the corn. That makes sense to me. Number of species is uncertain, but may exceed 40 or some counts. Interesting. So different species. It's adapting as well. Although most species of Strategea are not pathogens and affect agriculture, some species have devastating effects upon crops, particularly those planted in subsistence farms. Crops most commonly affect are maize. Oh, it also affects sugarcane and rice. Interesting. Sugarcane is something else that we've genetically modified as well as rice. I don't know about the sagami. That is so interesting, guys. I think that we've uncovered a resistor that tries to resist the modifications that we have done to plants in general. Let's look up what the sorghami is. Also known as the broom corn. Mullet. Yeah. No, millet. Millet is something that we grow in mass productions for cows. Guys, I think we figured it out. So this is a grain that we're not eating, but it is something that we're feeding in mass. Millet, we feed to birds, we feed it to cows, we feed it worldwide. So this is probably something that has been, if I look into the traces of the hierarchy where we have cultivated and changed the particular plant. So we can change this a bit so it doesn't just attack corn maize, but it also attacks the sorghum, which is millet, rice, and sugarcane. Yeah, they're not pathogens. Yeah, isn't this freaking interesting? I'm sorry, like, am I the only one that thinks it's so darn interesting? Like, I'm excited, like, this is why I'm a writer, I think, because I'm downright excited. Okay, so let's put that there. So corn, maize corn. So I almost put that. I almost put that it goes after genetically modified plants. I'm glad to see that it goes after more than just corn, because that does prove to me that that was more of a tap-in, and that was coming through. So we're gonna go ahead and put it also influences, and we'll have to see how it influences sorghum. And the millet. It probably reduces grain as well, but we need to look. Millet. I'm excited. My brain is gaining texture. See, rice. I need to see how it, and sugarcane, because I don't think I know enough about sugarcane. I'm gonna have to learn about sugarcane, because sugarcane doesn't have grain, does it? Why does it affect sugarcane? That one's interesting to me, because if it's affecting grain yield. Let's see, 3 species cause the most damage. So Segera ascara, Segera G, and then H. I'm just gonna say those. So 3 different species types. 3. Witchweed, it says that it parasites, maize, millet, rice, legumes. It also attacks legumes and a range of weedy grasses. Okay, so it also affects legumes and a range of weedy grasses, but I'm not going to put weedy grasses, because if they're not identifying the grasses, that doesn't make any sense to me. And legume is too much of a wide category. I know that we have rice and then we have legume, but if they're not telling you exactly which ones, I can't look in to see if we've modified them directly. It could be just a genetic manipulation in itself, like some splices of genes have changed just naturally, and then these weedy grasses are going extinct. So as a maintenance being within the ecosystem, it would make these particular alterations of these grasses go extinct. And that's probably why there's not a whole lot about like which grasses. And if it's only certain legumes and they're not telling you which ones, I can't look up to see which ones we have directly manipulated. It is completely of the significantly reduced yields, in some cases wiping out the entire crop. Yeah, this is about crop extinction for manipulated plants. Let's see, host plant symptoms, and then we would have to actually look up to see if the original strains of rice. Sugarcane is a type of grass. It probably attacks bamboo as well. Interesting. Well, I'm thinking, because, like, I need to look up, to see if the original millet, is resistant to Stergiga, to make sure that we are on the right track. We also need to look up the original strains of sugarcane, rice, and I'm not going to look up legumes. Like I said, that one it's too broad. It says host plants symptoms, such as stunting, withering, and corrosis are similar to those seen from severe drought damage, nutritional deficiencies, and vascular disease. Each plant is capable of producing, so we don't need to know all this. We don't need to know the germination process, which seed spreads readily via wind and water, soil via animal vectors. That's interesting. Chefs. So when it says for animal vectors, so that means if you use the wrong fertilizer, if somebody's crop in the area is having issues, then it would spread to your crop using the fertilizer from their animals. So it's really serious about not being wiped out. Because if it's going through an animal's digestive system. I just found out corn is also a type of grass. Yeah, it is. It definitely is. We've definitely destroyed the grassy... Did you see the original state of it? I put the name of it, I can't say its name, but all it does is look like grass with little tiny grains. Which germination is stimulated? The seeds send out a root to probe the soil for the host root. The host root, huh? Yes, and then once it finds a host root, it starts growing towards the host roots, making contact with the root surface, estimating parasitic content. Within 12 hours. Oh my gosh, it's come into growth. Recognizing the host root and begins rapidly cell division. Oh my gosh, this is such a cool plant. I mean, people would probably really hate me right now for saying it's such a cool plant. It can wipe out crops super fast, guys. It looks like it, within 12 hours, it kind of, like, recognizes the host and then begins to rapidly cell divide. And it can come through animal fecal matter, or the wind. And that's why they call it the witchweed soil, I'm sure, because the witchweed seed, witchweed, because it seems to pop up out of nowhere. It feels like magic. I'd be upset if an alien species made my reproductive glands 100 times bigger and increased the quantity of them. Yeah, I think I would be too. Okay, it says that within 48 to 72 hours, it has penetrated the host root's cortex. So that means that it basically has destroyed the plant within 3 days. Finger-like structures. Little mouth is what they call it. Yeah. It basically destroys the membranes of the cortex root. Sorry, I'm just reading. So they basically destroyed the plant within the 72 hours by like penetrating into the root, but it says that it takes another 24 hours for it to start developing itself. So you would the plant would already be infected by the time that you found it in your crop. It would already be infected for up to 3 days by the time you started seeing it pop up. It says that it cannot develop in temperatures below 68 Fahrenheit. So if you were growing corn in, say, Colorado, you probably have a higher chance of not losing your crops due to the, you know, having the winters. And I'm adding that Colorado thing. There's a lot of corn growers in Colorado, and that makes sense to me now. Yeah, it has a wide tolerance of soil types and soil temperatures. It's they can be frozen and they can still survive. It says they can survive up to 5 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you hit that below 0, then it'll kill the seed off. Okay. I don't need to know about the management. Yeah, people are saying that it's estimated values. Well, what was your question? Oh, I can't see. It's too small. What was your question? Yeah, it said that it has an estimated, it says that the witchweed in the United States have an estimated value well over 20 billion. The crops that it's affected. So it's taken over $20 billion worth of crop damage. Little warriors. Are pancakes awesome? It says that witchweed has been reduced by 99% since its discovery in the United States. And they've offered cash rewards to those who identify and report the weed. Encouraging landowners to check their own acreage. So yeah, so it sounds like they pay people to catch them, so then that way private people that are growing crops aren't getting the corporation's crops in trouble. And they're calling it a destructive pathogen. I wish they would stop. They just don't understand what it's doing. They just don't, and that's the problem with this ecosystem shit, is they don't understand this plant is trying to rebalance something that we have created in balance. And we attack it thinking that it's a parasite. Like, it's a parasite. It's like, no, it's not a parasite. We have destroyed the ecosystem, and the universe and the world, the earth, is trying to rebalance it by creating a being that only tries to rebalance the imbalance we created. And it is being measured by monetary damage. Exactly. I feel bad for this witchweed. So it also affects cowpea. I know that sounds awful. Which is a legume. So let's look up, they finally gave us the type of legume. It says it's not a grass. So they're saying that it only attacks grass families, but they're really confused because it attacks the cowpea, which is not a grass. The species is also incidentally introduced to Florida. I bet you would carry a heavy fine if you had this thing. It's beautiful. It's so cute. But no, we don't want that. Unfortunately, we do rely too much on corn still. But it's a cool fun fact, right? Purple witchweed is a parasite that affects grasses, particularly pearl millet and sorghum. Okay, so the different types. So they're saying that one of the types has been attacking the cowpea, and it's the only one that's doing that. So they said that there, at the beginning when we were reading this, it said that there was 4 of them, and then they only said that they were only talking about 3 towards the bottom here. If I remember, it was 4, wasn't it? I'm going up to the top and seeing if I'm remembering that incorrectly. A number of species is uncertain. There may be exceeding of 40 some counts. Okay, no, 40. I remembered the 4. But they're only talking about 3 specific species down here. I don't think that that's worth going into the book. I don't think that helps us any. I think that we need to look up to see if rices, like, so let's do this now. Let's move to the research, and I guess we are diving into this. To see if if there's a rice. So what is the original rice? Oh, here, that one's okay. Let's move this one. Rice. Cultivation. I love how awful of a speller I am. Thank goodness for spell check. My book would be awful if it wasn't for spell check. History. Let's find the ancestor tied to the original rice and see if it is immune. History of rice cultivation. Let's try this one. First domesticated and cultivated. Bobby. I was out running errands. I'm late. Oh, you're good. Yeah, it was called cowpea. That legume. Explain how rice was first domesticated and cultivated by humans and spread of cultivation to different regions of the planet. Cultivation and impact changed over time. Current scientific, based on the evidence, rice was first domesticated in the river. Are they going to give us the species? Because I need the species. It's less common. Oh, damn. Okay, more commonly known as wild rice. I think that this is what it is. So wild rice. So now we need to ask it if it is, I don't know if the word immune is the right word, but we're looking now to see if this particular type of grain is immune. Let's go like this. And then I don't know how to spell it. Okay. Let's open another tab. Is it immune to striga or witchweed? Not immune. Ooh. Let's see. Striga is a parasitic plant that attacks various crops. That might not be the original cultivation. I think they've lost the original genus. That's really sad. I mean, it's so old that they're not giving me a clear definition of what it came from. This is a species that they have moved from. It might be lost to history, guys. Yeah, so the current 4 species of rice that that we currently have on the market is coming from the genus Ziziana, which is known as wild rice. The only problem with wild rice is that we had domesticated and cultivated rice throughout history since ancient China. So I do believe the original rice has been lost to history. Evidence is... Okay, so let's look up this particular, because this one might be older, but this is... Let's try this one. Let's see if this one is immune. Not immune. We might not be able to prove our theory using rice because we've lost the historic the genus. Damn, that's not it then. Okay, so let's try millet. Let's try to find the original millet. Because this is how this works, guys. We have to find in order to prove a theory, we have to dive in and find proof. This article is about the crop species for the genus. For other users... No, broom, corn, grape millet. Okay, so let's look up sorghum. Cultivation history. Isn't rice from a flax plant species? Is that true? You know, let me look that up because okay, you know, if rice is rice derived from flax? No. Okay. That's not the answer. I think we're closer though. So rice is rice genetically engineered from a different genus? From a different genus. It's from the same genus. I don't think that it is, though. I think that the issue is that like they're literally saying that they don't know the original cultivation, and that's the problem. Like when things have been so removed from themselves and modified, and then we lost the original. So the reason why we're keeping corn around in the original one is because there's philosophy attached to it. Like we feel like we can prove our existence through it, and that's what they had said. It was philosophy, right? Was one of the main reasons that they keep it, and it's only on a few square miles within Mexico. So like corn, we've cultivated it and maintained it, so that way we can continue to mess with it and try to figure out things about it. Corn is something that we genetically modified much later. It looks like rice, though. There's some interesting things because no one kept the original species. Not that it's been recorded. I'll try one more time. Okay, let's look up striga or witchweed effects on, and then yep, I don't think that's the original. I think that's the problem. Okay, so let's continue to figure out the different types of millet. So if I have a theory, this is philosophy. We have to prove the theory. We can't just write things down without proof. So millet sorghum, cultivation history. That's why I love Google, but it's getting harder to use every day with the freaking AI. Rice was derived from wild grass we domesticated for grain production. Yeah, and I can't find the name of that wild grass. They as far back as they go is to talk about wild rice, and then they go back a little bit further to say like the 4 different types come from a specific species, scientific species, but like it's not when they say that like it's been cultivated in China way before we were recording these types of things, and they don't give me a species name, like I worry that it's been lost to history, because that species name should have been next to that particular, you know. So I'm trying to figure out. No, but thanks for doing this with me. It's interesting. The species oriented and domesticated in Sudan, Native Africa, and the Indian. Okay, so what does that say? It's probably because we can't prove what species it was derived from originally, and the original species no longer exists, and that's what I'm worried about too. So we can't prove our theory with a with an absent genus. So the species oriented and was domesticated. It says that cultivated in tropical and subtropical regions for its grain. Okay, what is the species? Give me the species. In the world's 5th most important central crop, the grain used as a food by humans, while the plant is used for animal feed and ethanol. This one doesn't have the genus as well. The original genus, and this is the problem. Like we're not doing research on the original genuses. We've got what we want, and then we're kind of just continuing to cultivate. I'm hitting a wall. It's less fun when you hit a wall. Okay, so let's see flower heads. Oh, evolution. Here we are. So pearl millet also is affected, so we know that. So let's look up the Pachmid collad. Okay, so back. So let's copy this Pachmid collad. Copy. Immune to Striga. Trigger an immune response against the parasitic plant! Fuck yeah! We found it! We found it. It's immune. That proves it. That's 2. It's always good to continue to look though. I'm so glad we found it. So this is the original plant. So in theory, in theory, if we theorize that the cultivation of plants causes the Striga to resist that change. Then we've found in corn, and then we've now also found it in millet. That shows that the ancestral roots are immune to the Striga. So that means that when we started cultivating, which is the mullet pearl, which is something that we did cultivate, and I did see that in passing. So that is the first one that we cultivated, and then we branched off from that. So that is, the pearl is the first one to be affected by the Striga. So that means that we caused okay. I'm excited again. I'm so glad I'm bummed about the rice though, that we couldn't find, and sometimes we hit a wall, but we found the proof somewhere else. So okay, so let's pull. Okay, decreased, let's see, decrease the grain yield of genetic modified versions of Tisoniate, also known as maize corn. It also influences genetically modified versions of, and so this one is called the PacMad, I don't know how to say it, PacMad Collide. Such as, it also affects the pearl millet, but I don't know that we need to go into that. But that is the first derivative that we created. It seems like the Sturgerum millet is the one that we're most concerned about. Just like the maize corn, there are genuses that it took to get us to the maize corn. We don't have to say that. Rice is one of the ones that are also on there, and sugarcane. We can look up and see if we couldn't find the answers in rice. We can try though in sugarcane. So the cultivation history of sugarcane. Let's see if we can find another genus thing. That was pretty helpful. No. Like, maybe we just ask for the genus tree. Sugarcane genus tree. It's like looking up a tree. That's not helpful. I knew sugarcane was Sagorum. Sagorum is millet. So sugarcane's a type of grass, but we're trying to figure out the original form of sugarcane. Because sugarcane is affected by Sagorum. And I keep saying it different every time because I just don't know. Sugarcane cultivation history. Cultivation history. And original genus. Original genus. Oh my gosh, it is. Originally species Sigurum. But it's a different type of Sigurum. You are right. That is interesting. So does it share similar roots to the millet? I want to see the, does it derive from the Cab Mad? I mean, we can ask. Pack Mad? Pack Mad? Clad? Oh, it's spelt slightly different than the other Sigurum. Was later hybridized wild species. Okay, so this is the original. Where'd you go? I'm sorry. Is it... The question is, modern sugarcane cultivators that's the original name. That's the scientific name of the original of the one we're using right now. That's not the original name. Okay, hybridized between the domesticated sweet spices and the wild species. Okay, so these are the two cultivations. So they mix these two genuses together to make sugarcane. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna ask if these two species immune to Striga. Not immune. So this wasn't an original without modification. No, it's saying it's a sugarcane, so that's... They can be saved though. It says right here that they can be treated where the other ones can't be. They use a fungus. So they use a fungus on this particular plant to cure the Stratiga, which there isn't a method to cure anything else. Everything else is decimated. It's gone. This one, they introduce a fungus and it pulls away from the plant. It says that the fungus can stimulate growth in the sugarcane plants and reduce the soil Stratiga seed bank, making it a promising strategy for controlling Stratiga infection in sugarcane crops. That's really interesting. So this is one of the only ones that that we're seeing is treatable. That still doesn't give us answers. Let's look up this one to see if it's immune. It's also known as sweetgrass. Is that the original right there? This one is immune. Which are hormones that signal the fungi to also trigger... Okay, yeah. So this one... Yeah, they have resistance. It yields resistance. So I'm still saying this is a proof of theory. And people can argue with me. But I would say that the other one was probably a little bit cultivated. It's still curable. But I think it's because we manipulated it before we then spliced it with something else. Because they're talking about a splice. So when it comes to the Surigami spontaneum, that one is immune. So this is a non-modified plant. That's so interesting. But I'm gonna look up what that is. I'm gonna see if it's... That's cowpea. So that's the legume. Unless it auto-corrected that incorrectly. Okay, that's really interesting. So I think, though, we found enough research to at least feel like it's solid. That the theory is solid. This book is only to cause people to do further research. I'm giving snippets of things, and if people want to dive deeper into it, they probably have a bigger background into it than me, but, like, this is all about trying to prove the necessity of things within the ecosystem and how we're all connected. So the Certiga plant is only trying to right a wrong. That's its very existence. It's not parasitic. It's just trying to right a wrong. And unfortunately for it, we see it as a parasitic plant because our corporations use corn cultivation and long. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna have to word this different since we weren't able to find the research to back this fully. Even though we found one of the strains to make sugarcane was immune, the other one wasn't. It's resistant in comparison to other strains, but I think that's because it is also modified, even if it is subtle. It might even be, they're saying on the head. So it is like, this was probably naturally, genetically modified, so things do happen like that, where things can change their genus, to kind of like adaptively see if the environment's good for them, and then they kind of like pull back if it's not. It looks like it wasn't quite holding on, if you will. It was probably gonna get knocked out, but we spliced it with something else. But that's how this stuff is. It's cross-pollination. It's not an exact science. So rice and sugar cane. So we'll put rice and sugar cane are also affected. Rice, and we didn't look up the cowpea, so I'm not even gonna put that in here. And rice and sugar cane. Are also infected. Trying to figure out if I should put the one that is immune. I'm just gonna put also affected. I'm not going to put anything else. I think I already said decrease the grain yield of genetically modified versions. Of grass. grass type. I don't know if grass is the word, because there's one legume, right? So we're just gonna put grass type, and people will be like, well, there's one that does legumes, and I'll be like, well, I didn't write a paper on the, this wasn't a book on corn and Stratego witchweed. This is a book on ecosystems and how they all work. And let's just put and some legumes and one legume. We'll just put grass type, grass and legume type, and legume types. Okay, so decreased grain yield of genetically modified versions of grass and legume types. Now that we put the legume type in there, I'm going to have to look up cowpea. Why? Why do I do this to myself? Okay, so cowpea cultivation history. You don't need to put it in. We don't need to put it in her search history. It's too late. Okay, so it says that it came from Africa, domesticated about 5,000 to 6,000 years ago, closely associated with the Sagorum. The pearl mullet! Ah, we don't have to do the research! It's already done! It's a legume that came from the grass family. So it's, so the, Pac-Mad, clad is the original species of the cowpea. There we go. I'm glad I looked it up. Okay, so, grass types. I'm just gonna change it to grass types because we just proved that, it is a grass type that was manipulated, right? Decrease the grain yield of genetically modified versions of grass type plants. Okay. Such as Tausinite, whatever, I can't say it, guys. I've tried it all over and over again. Also known, okay. I'm gonna have to fix that. But does not affect its original, but, however, does not affect the original unchanged and manipulated plant. Such as, there we go. Such as Tausinite, also, cultivated into maize corn. Okay, so how am I gonna word this? However, does not affect the original unchanged manipulated plant. Such as Taurusinites, cultivated into maize corn. And Pac-Mad, cultivated into Sagorum millet. And cowpea. Legume. Rice and sugarcane are also affected. There we go. So if they could find the immune species to rice, that would be the, that would be probably what everything is originally stemming from. Because if there's not a current, let me look that up. Let's look that up. So is there a current genus of rice that, is not affected by Styragora, right? Is there a, let me look that up. So is there a current genus of rice that is not affected by Styragora, right? Is there a, let me look that up. So is there a current genus of rice that is not affected by Styragora, right? Is there a, let me look that up. So is there a current genus of rice that is not affected by Styragora, right? Is there a, genus of rice that is immune to Striga? Yes. Research has identified several new rice from Africa, and they're calling it a Nifrica cultivators that show significant resistance to the strain of Segura under field conditions. I wonder if they rediscovered it. There you go. That's cool. Additionally, studies have explored the genetic diversity of rice germoplasms to enhance resisting against Agurum. The cultivators are being developed to help, so it's still in development, mitigate the impact of Striga on rice production in affected regions. So it's still new rice for Africa is what it's called. So I'm not going to even talk about that, but they might have like possibly rediscovered something within the genus. They might even have tried to enhance something to try to bring back the original genus, like when we hear about cloning dinosaurs. I don't know. So we won't put that in here, because it's not. Okay, so... So we have here... So corn, human cultivation caused this foliage, which this grass, I guess we should change it to cause this grass type plant originally called Tosinite, or scientifically Z. dildorinus, whatever. Our modification caused this being to become an adaptive species as we changed the grain to be more suitable for consumption for ourselves. Key adaptability that we are interested in is its resistance to flood and natural insect resistance. I'm gonna get rid of this because I don't think that matters. So Stigura is a maintenance resistor based plant that can decrease grain yield. So I should say creating an imbalance, right? Creating an imbalance within the plant. Creating the need for a plant-based resistor Strigia, or we'll just put witchweed. Stratiga is a maintenance resistor based plant that can decrease grain yield. Yeah. So I don't know that we need to go into the millet because we are going into it further down in the book. But it kind of shows like what the manipulation to an ecosystem does, and how different ways that plants can fight back from that manipulation. Wheat is also one of those ones that we have done things to. So I'll go into like the gluten intolerances and celiac disease attached to wheat. Because it's interesting because the corn developed a means to try to fight very differently than wheat decided to fight. Wheat went to an energetic battleground where corn took it physical, took it into a material means of battle. So cool. Different ways that the ecosystem tries to rebalance itself, right? But anyway, guys, I will boom dinosaurs. A mix of frog DNA with a dino DNA, yeah, that kind of thing. And I think that that's kind of what they might have been doing with this new rice grain that seems to be having a little bit of resistance to this, is that we've kind of like mixed a bunch of things together until we're getting to a closer genus to the original. But the original's probably lost to history. And I don't know, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is what I do when I'm writing this book, is it's a whole lot of research, a whole lot of planning, a whole lot of trying to prove my theories, because I don't want to be just making stuff up. So, no! Or thank you so much for those biddies. But yeah, I will be heading out, guys. I don't think that I'm gonna jump back on again later tonight, but you look for me tomorrow. I'll probably jump on one of the platforms. I'll announce it in the Discord. But I don't know what I'll be doing. I just wanted to work on this today because I have been feeling a little behind on it, and I had a lot of fun with you guys doing it alongside of you, so you guys could see a little bit of my process and know that I'm just not just copying a website or something. It takes a lot of like back and forth and having a theory and then trying to prove that theory, and then once I prove that theory, then prove it again. Because, you know, science is one of those things that you have to continue to, you have a theory, you test it, success, you have to test it again until you have enough success to be like, okay, you know what, I feel like I believe this theory. Then you put it into writing. And then somebody can do more research on that, because like I really don't have any wish to know more about corn other than what I just learned. So like, I really don't have the drive to learn more about corn because I don't want to cultivate corn. But I learned enough to be like, freaking love corn now in the way that I can, because it's sad as well. But I hope you guys learned something. About how the ecosystem tries to rebalance itself, and that we see this rebalance as a parasite because we don't see what we did originally was not asked for by the environment. So the ecosystem's got to do what it's got to do to try to right it. But anyway, love you guys. Like I said, I'll try to see you on tomorrow. Goodbye.